All right, Libra, welcome to your February of 2015 horoscope. My name is Athen. All right, so last month in January, we had a lot of emphasis in your fourth house of home, family, your roots, emotional connections, your sentiments, things you're emotionally connected to. And so the emphasis is still actually going to be finishing up in this sector. We're going to have Mercury retrograde here in your fourth house, and the sun's going to be there up until mid-month when he changes signs and goes into your fifth. However, a lot of that's kind of like reworking energy with that Mercury sort of flavor to it, where the real emphasis this month is on your fifth house of self-expression, creativity, vital life force, doing things that because you enjoy them, you know, and stepping into that life force energy, that inner child. And this is the house of course, romance, creativity, children, all these things that put a smile on our face. So a good emphasis here, and it all starts off here at the very beginning of the month on the 1st when Venus goes over Neptune in that fifth house. So last month in January, you probably started to notice the great enjoyment of this sector of your life. So for some of you too, it's entrepreneurship, new business perhaps, new business venture, changing some things there. But with Venus going over Neptune, this is spiritualizing and helping you really connect to it on a very deep level. You know, Venus is our connection, and Neptune has been transiting your fifth house, which has been about you guys essentially, you know, spiritualizing your creation principle, your self-expression, seeing perhaps the immense presence and beauty and compassion that you can have through your self-expression and through what you're creating. A lot of you could be even, you know, doing business ventures or something of that nature that's involved with that Neptunian energy of compassion and giving and stuff. But whatever it is, generally, with these two planets coming together, it's about a nice spiritual connection, and it's in that fifth house. So whatever that is specifically for you, enjoy it around the 1st. It can be, like I said, you can connect to it very deeply, very spiritually. Now on the third, we've got a full moon in Cancer, which is your guys' 10th house. So this is the part of the year, really, where there's this overall abundance and emphasis in terms of your guys' careers or anything you're doing on the public level, especially things you've been involved with here, specifically over the past 6 months. This can be a time of fruition here in this whole time of your life and this whole time of the year, really. And so it's about seeing the abundance that's around you in that 10th house environment. Perhaps it is something good coming to you in work, a promotion. For those of you who are self-employed, it's just a time when you can really see all of the abundance that you've created in that sector. So however that is manifesting for you, pay attention around the 3rd in terms of the abundance. When you see the abundance, because Jupiter's been transiting there too, so you've had this abundance in this sector, and see it, because the more we see that abundance, the more we feel into it, and of course that's what appreciation and enjoyment is all about. So very, very positive energy there. Now, last month you probably had to balance this part of your chart with your 4th house as well, home and family, with the work and stuff, the domestic life with the work life. So that's going to continue to be the case this month for the first half. Just make sure you're balancing that, and it's the same mantra we've heard before, making sure that we're not going too far into work at the expense of our family and our home and those sorts of things, and not get too emphasized in home and family or too comfortable in your securities to where you're not actually being of service and giving your stuff out to the public. So a good balance there, but I think it's very positive. Jupiter opposite the Sun is just overall very optimistic. It's also a sort of cyclical thing, which is again about seeing the abundance in that area. It could also be about seeing the abundance in the domestic life as well. So bring those two together, see how you can really connect to your work emotionally, bring more of that security and emotional connection to what you're doing on that work sector, and vice versa. You know, make sure that you're bringing in that motivation and long-term perspective into the home and family sector, and that'll meld things very nice between these two houses, these two parts of your chart. Now on the 8th, we have Venus going over Chiron in that 5th house again, which again is emphasizing some sort of enjoyment here with the self-expression or creativity. So, but with Chiron in particular, it has more to do with perhaps healing something in regards to it. You guys have had Chiron transiting that 5th, which is perhaps you have some insecurities, perhaps you have some inhibitions about what you're expressing or what you're creating. And so now is actually a very positive time when you can really illuminate that. Not necessarily, it's not so much about fears, it's just about illuminating it in the sense of you can see yourself very clearly. And more than likely what you'll see with this kind of aspect is there's really nothing to be afraid of. There's really no insecurity. The only thing that's really getting in the way is our own, ourselves, basically. So whatever it is, though, it's, I think, just putting in the enjoyment, enjoy the self-expression, tap into that zest for life this month, tap into that creativity, and you're going to notice that naturally Venus is doing her work. And one of those things is around the 8th when we feel quite healed by going through that enjoyment process of that part of your life. Now on the 11th, like I said, we got Mercury going station direct, and he's been retrograde in that 4th house. So some things needing to finish up in terms of your reflection of the home, family, past, your security, your sentiments. But then he's going to go station direct on the 11th, and then that's where you're taking whatever you learned about those fourth house matters and you start applying them. Pay attention to what you learned, and the more you gain and gather during that retrograde period, it's almost like, okay, you get it and you're now starting to implement it. So it's a good improvement energy too, perhaps improving something in that sector as well. Now on the 12th, we've got Mars going into Pisces and the Sun going into Aquarius. So the 12th is definitely a shifting time. And for you, it's a shift from that 4th house into that 5th house like I was talking about. You're going to really notice this mid-month. Going from the perhaps the passion in the home to the passion of self-expression. So this is where I'm really advising that you guys really get involved with those 5th house matters, because when the Sun goes in there, that's the tremendous life force energy. That's the passion, the vitality, and that's what's going to give you that life force energy too. And that's going to be all the way into March. So definitely for the second half, at least the second half of this month, put energy into those 5th house matters, which is really just about enjoying yourself and letting that creative self come out and expressing yourself in that spiritual way, which is what you guys are doing at the moment. Now in terms of this Mars, this is where things now start to go into your 6th house. You've had the South Node and Uranus in that 6th house. Now Mars is going to go in there to meet up with them. So there's a shift happening, and this is going to be the sort of continuous shifts into March as well. And it starts with Mars, and it's about putting energy into your self-improvement, making sure that you're taking care of your health, your routine, these types of things. You're going to notice the more energy you put into that sector from mid-month onward, it's going to overall benefit you. You're going to gain more motivation, more resilience, more energy. So it's almost like, okay, you have these goals, you have your ambitions, these things you want to do. Well, you transfer that energy a little bit into improving the self, and this is of course physical, emotional, mental improvement. And then naturally through that, by taking care of your health, for example, you'll feel more motivated and more of that life force energy coming through. So long story short, make sure you take care of that self-improvement from the second half of the month onward and into March. You'll find that very motivating and freeing up a lot of your ambitions and goals. Now we've got, on the 15th, we got Venus going into Pisces to join up with Mars. So this is where it's really starting to enjoy the health and routine. Mid-month onward, when you're taking care of yourself, it's feeling good and even enjoying the process as well. Because when we're going through the motions of improving ourselves, naturally it feels good because we're giving ourselves that attention that we need. And this is the time of the year for you to give yourself that type of attention. To check in and see, okay, where can I improve my life, my health or my well-being, my physical well-being, usually on some level. And that process you'll find, like I said, very enjoyable, perhaps even a good spiritual connection to it too, because, for you Libras, this whole 6th house is about going with the flow and surrendering, especially with the South Node there. Just let the process work its way through. Go with the flow as the sort of universe is guiding you, and you're releasing perhaps some, expectations on exactly how things need to be. It's coming into play when you're putting the energy into it very naturally. It's that non-attached, energy that you're putting into it. So that's the Venus. Now on the 18th, we have the new moon taking place, and this is in Aquarius in that 5th house. So if you have been putting energy in this and enjoying this overall 5th house of self-expression, your creativity, whatever it is, you're going to notice around the 18th there's going to be something new taking place here. So around the 18th, while it's still that new moon energy, just use that time to reflect. That's the time you want to go within, kind of do that, internal work, see how you're feeling it, but it could be just overall a new project or new something rather that you're working on. So whatever it is, reflect on it around the 18th, and then as the month starts to progress, put more and more energy into those fifth house matters into March, and you'll notice that it's then, you're able to nurture it, and then the full moon will take place in March, which then could be a culmination of that. So again, putting energy into that fifth house is highly recommended for you this month. Now on the 21st and 22nd, we've got Venus going conjunct over Mars in that sixth house. So this is where you can really tap into that really powerful energy when these two planets come together. It can be very passionate. It's about action. Like I was saying, you're putting action into taking care of your improvement this month, or really could benefit from that. And at the same time, you're enjoying it. So when these two come together, 21st and 22nd, very strong connection here, very motivating, very enjoyable, and that could be a time when you could get a lot done in that sector too. Sixth house is also your crafts. For those of you, developing crafts in your work or what have you, anything that you're kind of getting better at on a normal day-to-day sort of level. That just goes back to the whole self-improvement thing. Now on the 25th, we've got the sun going over Neptune in that fifth house. So this is where all of this spirituality in terms of, your self-expression and communicating this compassion that's coming out, or whatever, your creativity perhaps is very spiritualized. This is where it's especially emphasized. So around the 25th, just notice how there's a tremendous amount of awareness of the spiritual element of this fifth house and expressing yourself more too there. But it's very compassionate, like I said, very spiritual. It's just going within, feeling into it, and can be very imaginative as well. All right, so let's go and draw a card for you, Libras, and see where Spirit would like a little more emphasis for you this month. Okay, Pisces, she's come up already before too. And so that's where all of this, sixth house activity is. It's in Pisces. So perhaps this is a reminder from Spirit to, again, when you're improving yourself, it's not about, really doing anything. That's what Pisces shows us. It's a funny energy when Mars goes into Pisces, because it's that there is this active energy, but it's not with the intention of really doing anything. It's merely going with the flow. It's having that presence in what you're doing. And so with Mars in that sixth, in Pisces, I think this is definitely a reminder to stop and smell the roses. As you can see, Pisces, she's smelling the roses. She's calm. She's relaxed. She's a mermaid, which means she has spiritual roots in where she comes from. So perhaps it's also connecting to those spiritual roots, remembering that in taking care of ourselves, it's because we're spiritual beings, and as spiritual beings, it's very important for us to do those things. But it's, again, keeping our roots in the spiritual realm, you can see. All right, Libra, well, I hope you have a great month. Please get in touch if you'd like a personal reading. I also want to thank you all very much for all of your support. If you'd like this video, if you'd like to help share this whole Sidereal Astrology, please like and comment below. You can share it on Facebook. Also subscribe if you're new to the channel. I do daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly horoscopes. And I hope you guys have a fantastic month. Thanks for watching.